to the Miracles of Music with Mariah Mann. If you are interested in learning how music can minister to your soul, then you have come to the right place. Here, I will share a wide collection of stories for you to connect with. I will give you insights on new discoveries in this field, and you will also be able to listen to some specifically recorded songs created by me to help bring about certain thoughts and emotions within yourself. So without further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy the miracles of music I have to share with you today. Hello! Welcome to the third episode of this podcast. I'm so happy that you are willing to support me and listen to this and be excited and have fun. It's just wonderful. So, music, if you haven't realized, is a great passion of mine, and I absolutely love being able to use it to express my thoughts and feelings. So, my goal for this podcast is to give you a song to listen to that has a story and emotions going into it. I had a really cool experience earlier this week where I connected with a friend and found out that she was going through some hard things. And after that experience, I felt that some of those difficulties that she was experiencing and those negative thoughts and feelings were kind of sticking to me and kind of creeping inside of me. And I decided that I needed to do something to release those negative emotions. So, I did this by playing the piano. So the piano allowed me to express my feelings about this new sadness that I had acquired, and it allowed me to make something beautiful out of these negative emotions. This helped me to release those trapped emotions of grief and heartache from my body as I poured them out through the piano. I'm going to give you the opportunity to hear a raw, unpolished, and unrehearsed song I created while I was doing this emotional release exercise through music. So let me tell you how this is going to go. I am going to break this song down into little chunks, and then I'm going to talk about each section after I play it to you, and I will explain what thoughts and what feelings were going through my mind as I was creating it, as I was playing it for the first time. So stay with me until the end, because this is going to be a really incredible opportunity for you to learn how music can be used to release negative thoughts and emotions. I think you're really going to love this. Alright, so now what you're listening to is the original recording that I made in the chapel. Right after this, we're going to start going into each of these different sections more in depth. So right now, you can kind of be listening to this background music, getting an idea of what it's going to sound like as a whole, and then we're going to chop it up into about 9 different sections, and I'm going to really quickly go through each of those to tell you what my thoughts and emotions were while I was creating the song. So I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think. I started the song simply by playing one note twice, then responding to that with a lower chord in my left hand. This made for an echoey sounding melody with a focused purpose. I was just starting the song, so I wanted to introduce the listener to the key and the rhythm I was using. My tempo slows down and speeds up throughout the song as different emotions and feelings pass through me, which is exactly what I wanted to have happen. And this beginning section shows that perfectly. Now we're going to listen to the second chunk of this song. Now you can hear the overall tone strengthening and becoming more powerful and demanding. This same melody and chord progression is taking over and is more loud and angry sounding. When I was playing this, I was thinking of my friend I'd just been talking with and comforting a few hours earlier. She told me that one of her friends from back home had been shot earlier in the day and sadly passed away from those injuries. At this point in the song, I was angry, and I wanted to bring that out in my music by slamming the keys into the piano, as if that would somehow make things better by pushing out my anger. Now we're going to keep going and listen to the third chunk of this song. The third section of the song, when broken down into chunks, is surprisingly peaceful, especially after what I had just played. It starts off sounding very vulnerable. As I echo the musical phrase over and over, it begins to sound stronger and more resilient. This phase of the song is the part where I'm settling myself and I'm trying to process what just happened in my friend's life and what she just told me. She just found out one of her friends passed away from a horrendous act of violence. There's no correct way to process these emotions, so it was kind of up in the air how I was going to play this on the piano. So I chose to have this part of the song be calming and repetitive. Now we're going to listen to the fourth section. The fourth section of the song is basically a stronger version of what I just played. It has more confidence in it. I increased the tempo and I made the dynamics rise and then fall dramatically to create some tension. This helped the section of the song to be more interesting since the melody line wasn't changing all that much. I imagined my friend beginning to find her inner strength and figuring out how she needed to adapt to become stronger in this difficult and trying time. Now we're going to go ahead and listen to the 5th section. Now, every listener can start to hear some changes in the song. There's a little conflict going on between my brain and my fingers here, which is somewhat accidental, because I play some notes that I don't think sound quite right. So my mind is telling me to change something else up so it doesn't sound like I'm making obvious musical mistakes. This is how I improvise. I fake it until I make it sound good. I try to keep playing around with my mistakes so it makes the errors sound more intentional. I tried to be sneaky, but most musicians are probably going to catch me. So just take it easy. It's all right. We're going to get through this. All right, now let's listen to the 6th part. In the 6th part, you can hear the higher notes that are helping me a little bit, but I feel like I'm starting to lose my train of thought with the melody line. And then, all of a sudden, I come up with this great idea to play in octaves with the melody line. And I even surprise myself a bit here because it doesn't actually sound half bad. So back to the story I was telling. This would be the part of the story where my friend had a moment of realization. She's starting to see hope in her future again. Now we're going to listen to the 7th section. In the 7th section of the song, towards the end here, I change up several different elements which really solidifies the message I'm trying to get across that things are changing. I dramatically slow my tempo again, and I remove the busyness that my left hand had been creating earlier. Now we're going to listen to the 8th section. In this 8th section, I change the key. Things are getting exciting as I slowly speed up and then slow down before settling into the conclusion of this song where I start to wrap things up. So let's listen now to the 9th section. In this final part of the song, I conclude with a sweet and inspirational tune that I created by merging a few familiar melodies in my head and then playing them almost how they would normally go, but not too much because I don't want to copy those other songs in my original creation. I just use them to brainstorm my ideas. So the songs that I heard myself playing in this final mashup of melodies were Perfect by Ed Sheeran, What a Friend We Have in Jesus, which is a church hymn that I've grown up knowing, so it's always in the back of my mind. And the third song that I heard myself playing in this final melody line was Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas. And that's a soundtrack that I absolutely love. So sometimes when I'm playing the piano, I just find myself playing those songs that I'm familiar with because I think they sound good and I want to imitate them and play around with them in my own music. So a lot of my creative improvisation stems from songs that I play a lot, like church hymns. And they also come from musicians I listen to frequently, like Ed Sheeran. And sometimes it's just those good old favorite soundtracks to movies like Disney's Pocahontas that I feel like I need to add. So that's exactly what I did. So now we're concluding this podcast. And I wanted to list out a couple things that I hope you learned throughout this experience. The first thing I hope you learned is that music can be used as a type of therapy to aid in releasing trapped negative emotions. So anytime that you're feeling sad or distraught, sometimes music has the ability to release those emotions and those feelings instead of having someone talk to you about it. Sometimes you just need music. The second thing is that emotions and feelings can be expressed through music through different notes, rhythms, and tempos. So there's a lot of different elements that go into a song and that go into music that sometimes we don't pay attention to. So in the future, when you listen to music as a type of therapy to help you cope with certain situations and feelings, I challenge you to really listen to those songs a little bit closer than you normally do and try to figure out what it is exactly that you're connecting with. And maybe some of those things you could imitate in your own music that you want to create. The third thing I hope you learned from this podcast was that music can tell stories and it can relate to people, which can help get them through tough situations. So the story that I shared throughout this podcast was of my friend who was going through a really tough time. And when she told this to me, I kind of internalized some of those negative emotions because I was just being empathetic, which is something I do a lot, maybe even too often. But when people are sad around me, I kind of get sad too. I'm trying to connect with them and show them that I care and that I want them to feel better too. So I need to take care of myself sometimes after I do this. So this way of playing my emotions out through music is really beneficial to me. The fourth thing I hope you learned from this podcast is that words are not necessary to have a meaningful connection with music. Sometimes music without words gives more people the opportunity to relate to it because they can attach their own thoughts and their own feelings to it. I think that's a really important thing to know. So thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope this new information can give you ideas on how you can connect with music in the future. I will leave you with this quote by Marty Rubin. "There is music you never hear unless you play it yourself." Isn't that cool? I'm going to read it one more time. I really like this one. "There is music you never hear unless you play it yourself." That's by Marty Rubin. All right, I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I hope that you are looking forward to the 4th podcast.